and welcome to another OT edition of the Sports Outlaws. Yours truly, the Freak, Cowboy Joe on the Talk Monster. We're back. We haven't been with you for about 3 or 4 weeks.
Been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. We get busy. You got wives and kids and jobs and
honey-do list.
Right. And a lot of times we were just tired. So
yeah. Let's just cut all the BS.
Yeah, we're just tired from the long week. But today we're back. We're previewing the AFC North, and we're going to start out with the Cleveland Browns. The Browns fired their head coach last year, a new head coach, Rob Chudzinski, former offensive coordinator from the Carolina Panthers. He brings in Norv Turner as his offensive coordinator. And Norv's job, number one, is to get Brandon Whedon up to speed and make him into a legitimate NFL starter, which, the question is still out on him.
Yeah, well, they did come out this week and name Brandon Whedon the starter. Is that set in stone? I think if you're Browns, not so much, because this is a team that's obviously rebuilding, have some good pieces on the team, but there's a lot of controversy involved, especially when you look at the owner, Jimmy Haslam.
Right.
Bought the Browns not too long ago, and now he's got the whole Pilot J Industries
rebate scam, right?
Yeah.
That he's involved in. But the Browns do have some talent, maybe not enough to push them over the playoff hump. And, you want to start basically at running back, Trent Richardson. We know what kind of runner he is, but the key question with him is, can he stay healthy? Because of his running style, he's going to take a lot of hits because he's not going to, step out of bounds or run away from anything. And Norv Turner's offense always features a primary ball carrier. He did it with Emmett, Terry Allen with the Redskins, Stephen Davis, and LaDainian Tomlinson with the Chargers. Not so much success with Ryan Matthews, but Trent Richardson is a guy you can build your offense around if he's healthy.
Broken ribs, 2 knee surgeries, that's all that will worry you if you're a Cleveland Browns fan. Only averaged 3.6 yards per carry last year, but this is a guy I believe in. I think he is a primetime running back, and given the chance, he'll show you. He's just a little bowling ball out there full of muscle, man. This guy is amazing. He's a fantasy guy. Somebody that I would pick if I was in the fantasy league.
And, like we were saying, but you have to be concerned about injuries because of his running style. But if he's healthy, he'll have 350 carries this year easily, and you'll see Cleveland be a more balanced attack while Brandon Whedon gets his feet under him. He's an older second-year player. I believe he's 28, 29, 30 years old. He played baseball first. And so, there's not much behind him. Jason Campbell is the backup, and you don't want to turn your team over to Jason Campbell, Mr. Checkdown.
But he's adequate. He's not great. But
he's not going to make, he's not going to do anything that, he's not going to hurt you and he's not going to help you. So.
And also in the backfield, you have Montario Hardesty, former Vol, that can add some depth there as well. Receivers.
Nondescript group.
You have
Greg Little.
You have Josh Gordon. He's going to be their number one threat. And when you throw in Greg Little, it's going to be up to him to really help out Whedon and Richardson. He's going to have to become that number 2 guy and really step up and solidify that spot.
Well, you look at maybe a tight end, an underrated tight end in Jordan Cameron. He's a former college basketball player, a freakish athlete type. Could he develop into a good tight end? Those are some of the characteristics of a Norv Turner offense. We keep talking about, but this is what Norv Turner does. He runs the football. He gets the tight end involved, and they're an efficient offense. He's a great play caller when he's an offensive coordinator. Not so good as a head coach, but let's talk about defensively, because defensively the Browns were pretty good last year. They were young and talented. This year they added Paul Kruger, outside linebacker from the Baltimore Ravens, and they drafted Barkevious Mingo from LSU, outside linebacker. Yeah. So they're going to put some pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, Mingo had, and I apologize for not remembering, it's a foot injury or knee injury, and I don't think he's expected to miss much time, but definitely you want to have him on the field. And replacing coordinators, Dick Drawn, he ran a 4-3 last year, but they bring in Ray Horton, who's going to put in a 3-4 scheme. And with some of the guys you just mentioned, including Paul Kruger, that's going to help him. I think he's going to thrive in that system.
And at the quarterback position, you got Joe Hayden, who's a borderline Pro Bowl, All-Pro type player, and our hometown kid from UTC, our cornerback
Buster Screen.
That's right, and he playing a lot of nickel and dime situations there. So the Browns, they're building. I don't see them doing anything more than probably 6 wins this year. If they get to 8, I'd be shocked. But they're laying the building blocks.
They are, and it's and I like this team. Obviously, if you know me, you know I'm a silver and black all day long. Love the Raiders, but let's be honest, I don't have much to cheer for right now. So I don't know if I'm going up or just staying even. If I'm taking the Browns,
you're going up
as one of my favorite teams. But yeah, when you look at their schedule, it's tough. Let's just look at the first half. Miami, that's going to be a tough game. Right. At Baltimore. Who knows what Baltimore's going to be like, with so many losses there.
We'll get to them quickly because I think that we'll talk about it later.
At Minnesota, we could say that's winnable. Cincinnati, I think that's a loss. Buffalo.
Two bad teams, two teams that are trying to come on the rise.
Then Detroit. Buffalo's a wild card with E.J. Manuel.
Right.
They have weapons. We know that.
Right.
Detroit's another wild card. And then you're at Green Bay, at Kansas City, and then Baltimore at home. So that first half of the year, you've already played Baltimore your specific amount of time.
Right.
So we'll see what you got through 9 games for the Cleveland Browns.
Like I said, 6 games is a realistic number. They probably won't reach that. Anything more, that'll be a shock.
And this is the toughest division in the AFC. That's kind of why I wanted to do an OT edition, because needed some time to talk about these teams, because the Cleveland Browns could be a playoff contender if everyone lives up to the hype. And then you put in Cincinnati, the Ravens, and Pittsburgh. I mean, all of those have playoff credentials, championships, so they know how to win.
I'm not sure I share your same optimism on Cleveland, but the rest.
I'm a Brownie now.
Yeah,
dog pound.
Yeah. I'm not sure about that, but the rest of the division is rock solid, and we'll just go right into the Cincinnati Bengals. Back-to-back playoff appearances. Marvin Lewis has that team, running on all cylinders. He got rid of all the dead weight, Ocho Cinco included. So this is a team that's on the come up. They have a lot of young players, but as always in the NFL, they need Andy Dalton to be a little bit more flashy and not just efficient.
Right, and I'm not going to say last year was a breakout year, but had a pretty good year. But he definitely needs to prove. And once again, in this division, it's going to be tough to win it. So if he can improve, and of course you've got, we'll get to A.J. Green in just a minute, but he's obviously a key part of the offense.
He's one of the top players in the NFL. But you look at the running back position, they drafted Gio Bernard out of North Carolina. He and Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, will split carries. Bernard is kind of I watched him play a little bit at North Carolina. He's an all-purpose threat. Maybe not so much an every down back, but he's a home run hitter, and that's what this Bengals team needs to go along with A.J. Green.
And speaking of A.J. Green, obviously a stud. Now, last year, the Bengals underachieved, in my opinion, in the passing game, ranked 17th overall with 223 yards per game. When you have A.J. Green, and I know really he's all that. He's like Calvin Johnson on the lines,
Right.
Everybody's going to key on him and then kind of let everybody else go. But A.J. Green still put up some pretty good numbers, almost 1,400 yards receiving. So if they can up that, and Dalton had almost 3,700 yards passing, and it's all about growth in the NFL. We know that, and if Dalton can grow just a little bit more, it could be a surprise team.
Now, in normal years, in normal decades, you say the 80s or even the 90s, a guy with Dalton's record would be praised, but he's kind of on the hot seat, and this is coming from a guy who has 2 straight playoff appearances. So yeah, he has to step it up, but I think expectations of him being a elite type quarterback, whatever that means, I think it's unreal. I think the Bengals are built around a team concept. The defense was 6 overall. Yeah, Geno Atkins on the defensive line, who's a monster.
Yeah.
They brought in James Harrison as a free agent. They also have Ray Malaluga and Bertez Conflict. Is that how you?
Oh, Burfict.
Oh, Vontez Burfict. I'm sorry. Yeah. And so this is more of a team-based football team. And they're not dependent upon their quarterback to do, to throw for, 4,800 yards. So, but I can still see the Bengals, possibly winning 11, 12 games again if they get a more explosive effort out of the offense.
I heard an interview with Marvin Lewis on Burfict, and of course he came out of Arizona State,
undrafted. And
at the combine, he ran a terrible 40. It was like 5.5 for a linebacker. Yeah. And so obviously his NFL draft stock went way down.
Right.
Well, Marvin Lewis went to the pro day they had, and he was talking to Burfict, and he said he took him to the side just by himself and said, "Listen, man, what you need to do," because he wasn't going to run that day.
Right.
I guess he figured he already embarrassed himself enough. He goes, "You need to run. I know you're better than what you showed at the combine. I think it'll help you out in getting in the league.
Mm-hmm.
That'll help us out in taking a look at you." And Burfict told him, he's like, "No, man, my agent doesn't want me to run." And after the pro day was over with, Burfict comes up to Marvin Lewis and says, "Thank you for the interest," exchange numbers, and they kept in touch, and obviously it's worked out for him. He's a Cincinnati Bengal and doing well.
Like we said, this guy was one of the top players in the country, considered his senior year, at the beginning of his senior year.
He's nasty, too. That's what I like.
And it kind of fell apart, and like you said, he had some bad combines, but he played excellent his rookie year. And this is a team. Geno Atkins is a beast at defensive tackle.
One of the best tackles in the league.
You don't see many defensive tackles getting the kind of pressure that he does. So I think that the Bengals, if Andy Dalton gets to about 4,000 yards and they still are balanced with Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, and Gio Bernard with A.J. Green dominating on the outside, this looks to be another 10-11 win season for the Bengals, and possibly going to their third straight playoff appearance.
I think so. And you add in Carlos Dunlap on the line, and like I mentioned before, Burfict led the team's tackles last year.
Do you think James Harrison has anything left?
That's going to be a good question, man. If he does, then that's going to add a ton to that defense.
Well, he's already going to bring some nasty demeanor to the locker room, a tougher. He's not one of those guys who's going to be hugging another player after the game kneeling in prayer and all that kind of stuff. He's all about football. He's all about hurting you, making you feel it. So in this division, this is a physical division. We talked about the NFC West, a couple of weeks ago, that being a physical. This is another physical division, and I think the Bengals are up to the challenge.
And add in that their number 1 draft pick, Tyler Eifert, tight end out of Notre Dame, to go along with Jermaine Gresham.
Yeah.
If he can produce a little bit, just another weapon for Andy Dalton to throw to, and once again, that's all good news for A.J. Green.
So you'll probably see a lot of 2 tight end sets like the Patriots because those guys can get open, mismatches against linebackers and safeties.
And to be honest, I know not many tight ends get 1,000 yards receiving per year, but Jermaine Gresham is talented enough to do that.
He could do that, absolutely. And, I think another reason, Andy Dalton gets a lot of, he caught a lot of flack this year. But Jay Gruden, it seems like his stuff doesn't stink. And I know he has the Gruden last name, but it wasn't like he was drawing up,
Yeah, I see where you're going.
Right, so help the kid out. This is your project. They drafted him, started him from day one, out of TCU. So let's see what you can do to help this guy improve and be the type of quarterback that you all think will lead you to the Super Bowl.
After we're through taking a look at the AFC North, we'll give you our picks to win the division, and we'll just go ahead and pick the order they'll go in at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. Coming up next, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that always starts with Big Ben Roethlisberger.
Right. And his health. Big Ben and the health of the offensive line. In the last couple of years, the offensive line has been terrible. They haven't blocked well for him in the pass game, and the run game has really fallen off. That used to be a staple of the Steelers, going back to Noel and Cowher, the run game, running the football. I know you have a franchise quarterback in Big Ben, and he's 6'5" and 260 and can break tackles and all that kind of stuff, but you need to take some pressure off of him and the offensive line didn't do that job the last couple of years. So that's issue number one. Issue number two is Le'Veon Bell. He's injured, maybe out 6 to 8 weeks. They just traded for Felix Jones from the Eagles. Felix Jones, a first-round draft pick from the Cowboys about 3 years ago, never really lived up to the hype coming out of college. He and McFadden were dynamic at Arkansas. So I want to see Pittsburgh get back to that, physical offensive line, ground and pound type of football, and that remains to be seen whether or not the offensive line can hold up their end of the bargain.
Yeah, you lose Rashard Mendenhall, you lose Chris Rainey due to some off-field issues. Like you said before, Le'Veon Bell has the injury; he'll be out for a while. So here's what that leaves you. That leaves you Isaac Redmond and Jonathan Dwyer as your main guys in the backfield. And that's an issue. Right.
Now, if you're running the veer or whatever they ran at Georgia Tech, yeah, Jonathan Dwyer looks good, but he hadn't really emerged as a number one back in the NFL, and that's what they would count on Le'Veon Bell to do, and he's hurt. So, once again, a bulk of the offense is going to be on Roethlisberger's shoulder,
And if the line underperforms like he did last year, we might see more Landry Jones.
Yeah, and he's going to be running for his life. And they lost Mike Wallace to the Dolphins. Right. He was a deep threat. Emmanuel Sanders and Antonio Brown are the wideouts there. So this is not your father's Steelers team. This is not a team that runs the ball and just throws it when they have to or need to. This is a team that's they're going to spread it out and let Ben do his thing, but he's getting hurt and he's trying to make too many plays on his own.
Yeah, to the offense, the keys, Big Ben, obviously, Antonio Brown, and Heath Miller. If those guys don't produce early, then it could be a long year for the Steelers. Defensive side of the ball, as we mentioned before, they do lose James Harrison. And how big is that? I don't know. I thought James Harrison still played well last year, but is that I don't know. Do you consider him a leader? Because I'm not sure about that.
Not a leader in the Ray Lewis, rah-rah, Brian Dawkins type way, but a leader in the fact that when he's healthy, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get effort. You may not get production. You're going to get effort. He loves the game. But, the defense, even though they finished number one last year, they kind of took a step back. They weren't the dominant Steelers defense that we've seen. Yeah, they were old and they were slow. And they didn't do much to correct that besides getting rid of James Harrison. Lamar Woodley is expected to, do some big things. But but Casey Hampton is gone. He was a rock in the middle of that defense at nose tackle. They need to get younger and faster. Troy Polamalu, injuries, year after year because of the way he plays, the physical style, the careless, kamikaze style of brand of football that he plays. So it'll be interesting to see what the Steelers do again on defense. Like I said, it's not the defense that we've grown accustomed to seeing, just shutting teams out, pressuring the quarterback, getting after the quarterback. They're going to have to find some more playmakers.
Yeah, on defensive line, you have Brett Kiesel returning, but he'll turn 35 in next month in September. So how much more does he have left? But he did have one of his best seasons last year, so he still apparently has a little in the tank. And you got Ziggy Hood and Cameron Hayward. Cameron Hayward, the son of Ironhead Hayward, former Falcon, former Saint.
Yep.
He was a great running back in the day. But from everything I've heard, I think Pittsburgh is saying that he's ready to go. He's ready to be a primetime player on that line.
Well, on the Steelers, the way they play their front three is, they're just trying to keep the linebackers clean so they can make plays.
You know what's amazing? As old as they were, and we're sitting here talking about it.
Still number one defense.
Number one defense in the league.
Right.
Number one against the pass and number two against the rush.
Right. But
how is that? How's that possible? Because they don't look like it.
Dick LeBeau is a genius when it comes to scheming defenses, and without Troy Polamalu and Ryan Clark was injured some, the free safety, and so they went out and drafted Shamarko Thomas out of Syracuse in the 4th round. He's supposed to be the same type of hard hitting safety, who plays tough against the run and and blitzes a lot, and also look for Jarvis Jones. The rookie out of Georgia, outside linebacker.
He's looked good in the preseason.
What did he have, about 20 sacks last year at Georgia? but didn't run a 4.4 at his at the combine. So, the Steelers, they don't bring in a lot of free agents. They draft well and they develop their players. They're gonna have to do an outstanding job with that this year to make it to the playoffs.
Yeah, and Jarvis Jones has really surprised me. I knew he'd be good. I didn't think he'd be as good as we've seen so far.
Right.
Once again, it's preseason, but I think with a defensive player, it's easier to tell what they're going to be in the regular season than it is on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, fortunately for him, he's going to spend a lot of time rushing the quarterback, which is what he did at Georgia.
Well, all right. It's time to talk about the Baltimore Ravens, your current Super Bowl champion. You talk about not your daddy Steelers.
Right.
This is not your kids Ravens because they have a totally different look this
year.
year.
They overhauled the defense, and this wasn't even the Ravens defense that we were used to seeing last year. They were getting torched last year, left and right. Ray Lewis, Ray, Preacher Ray, whatever you want to call him, Blowhard, as I like to call him.
Yeah, I don't agree with that, but
I am a Baltimore Raven fan, and I was a Ray Lewis fan until he started thinking he was Billy Graham.
What's wrong with that?
Well,
he's found the Lord.
That's fine,
but you don't want to hear it.
Not all the time.
You want to watch football. You want to hear cussing and spitting. And
well, if he makes sense, I don't mind it. But like Joe Flacco said in the article, a lot of times Ray is just talking. He's just talking, and after a while, man, he's just like, "Shut up, dude."
What would one of his speeches sound like where he makes sense?
We're gonna go out here and we're gonna and the
hot
Lord,
dogs.
Yeah, and the Lord said, "No, you didn't kill that boy in Atlanta, but
we need some ketchup on that thing."
He's just running off at the mouth, and Ray Lewis, one of the greatest players to ever play the game, but enough is enough. This team needed to be turned over to Joe Flacco. The defense has had a control of that organization for as long as Ray Lewis has been there. So Ray Lewis is gone. Ed Reed is gone. Paul Kruger is gone.
Ellerby is gone.
Ellerby is in Miami. And so they bring in and I think this year the defense will be a whole lot better than last year's team.
You think so?
A whole lot better. Well, number one, you got Terrell Suggs will be back at full strength.
He will. And that hurt him last year with his timeout.
Yeah, and Elvis Dumerville on the other side to rush the passers a lot.
Well, he's gone.
No, Elvis Dumerville, who they got from the Broncos.
Oh, yeah,
you're
right.
And the facts,
I was thinking of the Broncos.
Yeah, and the facts snafu on the other side of Suggs. They haven't had that combination in a while since Boulware and McCary were rushing the passer. So I think the defense will be a lot better. They added Chris Candy, Marcus Spears, Michael Huff, former Titan and Raiders safety, Arthur Brown, a rookie from K-State. Looks to be one of the inside linebackers along with Darryl Smith, who came over from the Jacksonville Jaguars. My problem with the Baltimore Ravens is Joe Flacco. Now, Flacco is getting paid as if he's in the same class as
Aaron Rodgers, Brady. Yeah.
And I don't think he's that type of player.
He did win on the Super Bowl.
They won a Super Bowl. Now, Flacco had some good performances. They had, Ray Rice is a beast. Bernard Pierce, the backup running back, was excellent. Anquan Bolden, who's no longer there, was a great safety net for Flacco. So now this is your chance to prove that, you'd be considered with Eli and Peyton and Tom Brady. And I don't think he's quite there yet.
Well, you're right on that. I if I'm starting a team, I'm not taking Joe Flacco.
No, you're not.
I probably still take Tom Brady
as
old as he is.
If you're taking quarterbacks, you're not even taking Flacco until at least
he'll be in the top
9th,
half.
10th.
Yeah, he'll be in the top half, but he's not going to be top 5, top 6.
But over $20 million, he needs to be in the top 5, 3, 4, 5.
I think that's they knew they were going to make a lot of personnel changes, and that's why they signed him to that. First of all, because they could afford it after everybody leaves. But
he played his hand correctly. He didn't sign the contract offer they offered him at the beginning of the season. He was going to play it out, and
it worked out for him.
And
you win the Super Bowl,
you got some.
You got something in your favor.
Yeah, he got lucky, but he's going to miss Anquan Bolden. Dennis Pitter suffered a season-ending injury in preseason. They did sign Dallas Clark. How much does he have left? I'm not sure. Ed Dixon is there. But I think that the Ravens should lean on Bernard Pierce and Ray Rice. That's running the football and catching the football, because right now, look at the wide receiver position. Torrey Smith, Jacoby Jones, Tandon Doss. Those are guys that are field stretch, vertical pass receivers. You got to have somebody working the underneath stuff.
And first round pick at number 32, Matt Elam, former Florida Gator. That guy's a beast, so he's going to be expected to walk in and replace
somewhat
and replace Ed Reed and some of those other guys in the safety position. We'll see. I think he can, but it's when you're a rookie playing in the league, it's hard for you to. But we've seen it with Wilson, Luck, and RG3, and I know that's a quarterback position, but that's the toughest position to come in as a rookie and succeed. So you'd think he'd be able to do that. Lots of losses, man. I just don't see it.
Look,
I know it's a lot of old losses, but
right.
When you lose that leadership, I know you've got Suggs, you've got Nagata in the middle. He's great.
I think that leadership was overrated. I think guys were tuning Ray Lewis out the last 3 or 4 years. I absolutely think so. Because
that gets me hyped up when I'm sitting there watching.
It does not get me hyped up anymore.
What gets you hyped up?
A chicken head sometimes.
Well, they can get you hyped. No doubt about that.
But week in and week out, and you're hearing this stuff every day in the locker room, and Ray Lewis is going on and on and on, and you've seen some of the segments where he's mic'd up, and it's like, shut up, Ray. Just shut up. Just shut up.
Well, you're losing almost 1,500 yards of receiving in Anquan Bolden and Dennis Pitt, him being out for the year with that injury. You're losing your top sacks guy and Paul Kruger.
Which he only had 9.
2 out of your top 3 sacks guys with Kruger and Ellerby. I don't know. Maybe you're right, but I'm not sold on them being a competitor. Maybe barely a playoff team. I'm talking barely.
Well, I'm not saying that they were, I'm not saying they're going to repeat what they did last year, but I think the defense is a lot better than they were last year because they've added speed. Ray Lewis was a shell of himself. Ed Reed made plays, but he was hurt more often than he was, healthy. And they're getting the cornerbacks back. Ladarius Webb. They have some good corners there. And like I said, you got Elvis Dumerville, Terrell Suggs coming off the corner, Haloti Ngata in the middle, Chris Canny, Marcus Spears. That's a solid defense, man. That's a top 10 defense, I think.
Well, all right. Who do you think finishes last in the AFC North?
Cleveland. Cleveland Browns will be in last place.
As much as I hate to say it, I agree with you.
And then they'll be
because I'm a Brownie now. I don't know if I told you.
Yeah, you did say that. Yeah, you're jumping off the Raiders. You're jumping off one loser to another.
No, I'm not jumping off the Raiders. I'm just putting them to the side right now.
You put them to the side.
I got to roll with the winner every now and then.
I have 2 teams as well. I have the Ravens and the Cowboys. And the Cowboys, ain't done bupkis in a couple of years.
You talk about not living up to potential.
Yeah. And so, the Ravens have been my team since they went into Adelphi Stadium back in whatever year it was they won the Super Bowl. And they beat the Titans. And the Titans were talking all that crap and whining and stuff. That's when I liked Ray. That's when he played football. That's when you didn't hear all that crap come out of his mouth. So, Cleveland Browns, 4th in that division. Who you got number 3?
I agree with you. Cleveland Browns finished last in that one. At number 3, I'm going to pick the Steelers.
We are in agreement.
I think Pittsburgh, they just not that Le'Veon Bell was going to be a game changer, but with his loss and some of the other losses, just not enough weapons. Mike Wallace gone, not enough weapons for me to see them contending to win this division. And when you look at the schedule, first game, it should be a win. They play Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Then at Cincinnati, at home against Chicago. Well, actually, when you look at the schedule, it's pretty good. Let's see. Let's take a quick look at it. Okay, and we'll get win-loss.
That doesn't mean their players are that offensive line. Are they gonna be able to protect Ben?
I know. Well, okay, take what you're about to say and put it into this win-loss record we think we're gonna have. At home against Tennessee,
win
1-0. At Cincinnati,
loss
1-1. At home against Chicago, I'm going loss.
I'm not sure. I'm not absolutely sold on the Bears. I'll go loss.
Okay, 1-2. At Minnesota. Win.
Loss.
Oh, you want to say a loss?
Yeah, I think Minnesota gets it.
Okay. So that's 1-3. At the Jets, win. 2-3. At home against Baltimore,
Loss.
2-4. At Oakland, 3-4.
Mm-hmm.
At New England,
3-5.
against Buffalo, 4-5. At home against Detroit,
5-5.
at Cleveland,
6-5.
at Baltimore,
6-6.
at home against Miami,
7-6.
at home against Cincy,
So late in the year. Right now on paper, I'll say Cincy, and so I'll say it's 7-7.
7-7. At Green Bay,
7-8.
at home against Cleveland,
8-8.
8-8. It's going to be a tough year.
That's about where they were last year.
And that's with a couple of games that may be going back in,
Right.
either way.
Right.
Because I'm not sold they'll beat Miami that late in the season. I think Miami's going to be trucking pretty good. But that's what they finished last year, 8-8.
They have to, and Pittsburgh is not a team that goes out and spends a lot of money in free agency, but they got to shore up that offensive line. They have to get faster on defense.
All right, so who do you pick to win the division? We have Baltimore and Cincy left.
This is a toss-up. Neither one of these teams I see winning any more than 10 or 11 games. But because of what the Ravens did in the offseason and the losses, Ray Lewis, Paul Kruger, we talked about them. But they replaced those guys, in my opinion, with better players, better options at those positions. I'm going to go Baltimore winning that division, maybe at 11 games, but Cincinnati second, but Cincinnati making the playoffs as well.
I'm going the other way. I think Cincinnati finally breaks through. They win that division, and I'm not saying they're a Super Bowl contender, but I do think they win the AFC North.
I would not have a problem picking Cincinnati because they have a game breaker in A.J. Green that the Ravens don't have. I think that's a big deal to have that kind of guy who can put up 6 points in a blink of an eye. But I just like what they did. I just like what they did on defense. I like Baltimore's additions on defense, even though Cincinnati was rock solid defensively. I just don't think that Andy Dalton. I think Andy Dalton is what he is. He's a Jim Harbaugh type. He's not glamorous. He does what he does. He's not going to put up big numbers. He's not a type of quarterback that can carry a team. Flacco proved that he could do some of that last year, and this is Flacco's team now. They wrote him the big check. He's making $20 million plus. It's time to put it on the line and show him that you are, who you thought that you were.
All right, there you go. It's our predictions for the AFC North, Cowboy and the Freak. And next week, we'll take a look at the AFC South. Houston, Tennessee, Indianapolis, Jacksonville. But we know who's going to finish last in that.
Tennessee? Oh, Jacksonville.
Yeah.
That's going to be a toss-up.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how Locker does in that one. He has some weapons too. But
y'all are sold on Locker, and I'm not.
Well, I'm not totally sold on it.
Oh, that's my brother.
This will be the telltale year.
Well, like I said, they're not giving quarterbacks any. If you can't do it in 3 years, they're looking to get rid of you. They don't allow you to grow and work through mistakes anymore. Locker is more athlete than quarterback, but you have to put him in a right system. You go back and you look at McNair when he came out of Alcorn State. Now, I think they did him a disservice because when he finally did get in, he didn't start his first year, if I'm not mistaken. He might have started a few games, but when he did come in, this was Aaron McNair. He wasn't called Ground Chuck. He was Aaron McNair, but they didn't do a lot of throwing. He didn't throw the ball a lot, and when he did throw, he threw it to the tight ends or the running backs. And they ran the ball a lot, and they played, tried to play good defense. And so I think this is the kind of formula that Tennessee is trying to work on, especially with their draft pick, the offensive lineman out of Alabama.
Chance Warmack, yeah.
First round in the top 10 picks, they want to go more of a ground-based attack and play good defense and not try to leave the game in his hands, which I think you can still win in an NFL like that. But Locker's going to have to make some plays. Kenny Britt's going to have to step up and make plays. They did sign Delaney Walker from the 49ers, who was a
tight end.
Very good all-purpose type guy. I mean, he didn't get a lot of attention because of Vernon Davis, but he made plays and he was very versatile. So, you put Locker in situations where he can succeed. Hopefully Chris Johnson is back to form. And they play the type of defense that that attacking style defense that the Titans fans are used to. And maybe they could sneak in, but
we will see.
I'm not sold.
See. And we'll break that down, the AFC South, next week in our OT edition. And stay tuned for the Sports Outlaws next Saturday at 1 p.m. And we'll have a look at South Carolina and Texas A&M and the SEC. Depending on our phone call load.
That's right.
That might make that part of the OT edition as well. So we'll see. And also our Red Zone Player of the Week, our core power performance of the week. We'll have that player on, interview them, and have lots of cool things to talk about.
Some scores we'll be giving out, some, as they happen, highlights. So give us a call. Hey, it's the fastest hour on radio. We appreciate your support. And we'll see you next week.
And if you're listening to this, you probably already know, but I'm going to say it anyway. Facebook.com/The Outlaws is where you can get all of our OT edition stuff, and YouTube.com/The Outlaws.
And follow Joe on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at Sports Outlaws with a Z.
That's right.
And that website will be up soon enough.
It will. We're working on it. Hey, man, you got to do it right.
That's right.
You can't rush into stuff.
Or don't do it at all.
Talk Radio 102.3, thank you for joining us in this OT edition. Cowboy and the Freak, we thank you so much for being part of the show. And I guess we'll see you next week.
Peace.